Hi, I'm Janet Smith, Executive Director of North Central Conservancy Trust, and I'm going to tell you the story of conservation finding a new home, the story of NCCT's new office, a different kind of conservation story, one of incredible volunteers and of generosity. NCCT has lived happily expense-free, courtesy of Dave Worth, CEO of the Worth Company and past board president. Dave and the Worth Company charged NCCT nothing, and we had a lovely office, use of their conference room, and storage. There's my office with the arrow pointing right to it. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Worth Company, they're a family-owned company that has made fishing lure components and key rings for 4 generations in Stevens Point. Super place to work and have a free office, but it wasn't going to last forever. A couple years ago, Dave Worth mentioned he wasn't going to kick us out. He'd never do that. He's a super guy. But that he wanted to let us know the company needed more space in which to expand, so he'd like to have his office back eventually. He figured a year or so would be time enough for us to find another space. It just so happened that one of his employees, who was also in the Village of Whiting board, knew of a potential spot. So that guy dropped by my office and told me about the old DNR ranger station in the Village of Whiting. That after nearly 60 years, DNR had recently left it to build a bigger office. Here's a map of the park with our office on it. By the terms of the deed, DNR was required to raise the buildings within 2 years of vacating and return the property as it had originally been deeded to them by the village in 1960 as an undeveloped parcel in Upper Whiting Park. Well, it turns out that the village was happy to have another organization with a conservation mission occupy the place and to retain the buildings. Our neighborhood and recently seen neighbors here are in the upper surrounding Whiting Park. Clover River, Green Circle Trail, trumpeter swans, and the ever ubiquitous deer. Our Ranger Station Office Committee first inspected the place before taking ownership. It was a mess. Stuff was everywhere. There was asbestos in the tile flooring, and a couple of old fuel oil tanks DNR removed. So, after DNR cleaned out all that stuff, and after going through the process of deed transfers from DNR to the Village of Whiting to NCCT, NCCT became the happy owner of an acre of land in the middle of Upper Whiting Park for the price of $1. The entire process took about 1.5 years from learning about the property to ownership. Here we are, NCCT with the DNR in the village at the signing of the quitclaim deed. The little building is a perfect size for our organization. It has 2 offices, a big conference room, a little room for a kitchen, a bathroom, and a full basement, plus the garage DNR used for fire trucks and equipment that we plan to rent out. Here our happy office committee members are ready to start work. But one Uber volunteer took the lead, Doug Henderson, easement donor and properties committee member who gathered a crew of Habitat for Humanity volunteers to help us. And we made a special appeal to our supporters called the Ranger Fund, which this poster shows, and we were off. The campaign raised nearly $30,000 for renovations for work our volunteers weren't able to do. And here is our own Doug Henderson and his handy helper, Ron. DNR removed the asbestos-containing tile flooring before we took ownership, so the entire floor was down to bare underlayment. The first order of reno by our volunteer crew was to remove the staples. And so they did. Volunteers replaced subflooring that was all rotted out. We had a hole in the floor to the basement, and then they stapled down a 1/4-inch birch underlayment throughout. They painstakingly rehabbed both exterior wood doors so they shut and locked properly. And as you might imagine, the bathroom involved the most work. Here it is from beginning to further along. The volunteers removed everything including the old shower, toilet and sink, and tile flooring, and created a bump out for a refrigerator to the kitchen, reframed the bathroom door for accessibility. also patched and replaced drywall where it was needed, which was pretty much every room. The board president and Habitat volunteer are fixing a patch in my office here. We also had insulation blown into the attic and foam added to the basement for added insulation. Then we had a painting party day with UWSP Land Conservation Society students and pizza. My husband and I and Emily Weber, our outreach coordinator, also spent most of the day painting. We painted all the rooms. Next was the tile and then bathroom fixtures that were replaced by the plumber. Voila! We had a finished bathroom. Only the toilet and sink were installed by contractor. The trim, heat vents, and other fixtures were done by volunteers. And then carpet tiles were installed by a contractor. And then heat vents, trim, were painted and installed by volunteers. The finished conference room is shown here with a donated table and chairs that were from UWSP's surplus store. The bump out that we made in the bathroom for the refrigerator, shown in the previous photos, will be in the next slide here over on the left. The hole in the floor was patched and it was plumbed for a sink. Volunteers installed donated kitchen cabinets and countertop in 6 hours. And my husband installed the donated tile backsplash. The fridge and the microwave were also donated. Emily's talented artist sister Shelby designed and is painting NCCT's legacy tree that showcases our founders and office donors. We've tallied over 400 volunteer hours so far, and we haven't painted the redwood siding exterior yet. That'll be done this spring, along with native plantings to landscape the yard and get rid of all the grass. And here we are, finally warm and cozy at the new office, Janet and Emily at home. NCCT took ownership of the property in mid-October and moved in the first week of December. It's been a great experience, and now we have a home base to further our mission and grow.